U.S. strikes last night on Iran, have quite firmly put U.S. support for Israel and Israeli activity at the forefront of the geopolitical position at the moment. Iran takes things from a practical perspective, but also an emotional perspective. And therefore, we saw whenever Israel attacked Friday week ago, Iran put up the red flag of vengeance, and then immediately started attack back with ballistic missiles. And the numbers of ballistic missiles have been steadily going down as Israel attacks Iran's ability to fire those ballistic missiles. But they're having some effect in hitting civilian targets. And that's the immediate reaction we saw last night, ballistic missile attacks on Israel, and Israel then continued to prosecute its attacks. Iranian ballistic missiles will not reach the United States, and therefore, to try and respond to the United States attack, Iran's going to have to do something different. It'll bring its coalition of the willing that it has together, or as we call them, the axis of evil. So we've got Iran, Russia, North Korea, and China. Now, China is going to sit back and just watch and wait to see what's happening. It'll not get directly involved. North Korea is really Russia and China's bedfellow, but may provide Iran with some missile technology. Russia is sitting there laughing all the way to the bank, effectively. And Russian newspapers suggested that the Israeli actions were helping Russia by one, moving Russia-Ukraine further down the agenda so that people aren't focusing on it. Two, tying up international geopolitical organizations and politicians' decision making in a complex Middle East situation. So again, they don't have the capacity to focus on what Russia's doing in Ukraine. And the third one is with the increase in oil prices, that'll help fund Russia's activity. So I can see Iran trying to do something to stimulate that and hit back at the West. And that's the worrying thing. There will be two reactions, I think, out of Iran. One, the stimulation of their proxy organizations that they have operating across the world. The big ones are Hamas. Well, Israel's just about to destroy them. Hezbollah, Israel is just about to destroy them. There are groups inside Iraq that could attack US bases there. That, I suspect, will happen. But then we've got the Houthis and the Houthi influence into the Red Sea. And I think we will see a massive uptake in Houthi activity in disrupting international shipping in the Red Sea. And the final the final thing in the region would be Iran potentially trying to close the Straits of Hormuz. And the Straits of Hormuz, from a geopolitical perspective, 30% of the world's oil and gas goes through there. Even a threat to close it will put energy prices spiking to a level that will make the spike we saw when Russia invaded Ukraine seem like small change. And then the other thing that Iran will do, with the help of Russia, is to try and cause as much disruption in different countries as possible through protest, through disinformation. What Xi Jinping in China will be watching from that perspective, because of course, the more US assets that get tied up in the Middle East, the fewer assets that there are to potentially stop Xi Jinping from militarily taking Taiwan and his influence through there. So there might come a point where Xi Jinping goes, the international community is so tied up in the Middle East, I have got a window of opportunity here, and he might try and take it. And again, Trump will be watching for that very closely indeed. We are a couple of feet further up the escalation ladder towards a global conflict, I think. Every time something happens, it's easy to game and model what the immediate effect is, but to try and work out the secondary, tertiary, and other effects is very, very difficult indeed. And this is where we sit there with holding our breaths to see what happens next. I don't think this is the end of the US attacks. The UK is already involved, no matter what the government's saying. We are providing maybe not physical support, but we're providing levels of support because of the relationship that we have with the United States. The reactions that will come, and we have to remember we've got the British sovereign base areas in Cyprus. That is effectively our permanent aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean. When the Houthis start to attack international shipping in the Red Sea, we're going to have to get involved in that. So the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force will help to protect shipping there. I can see more bombing raids going in against the Houthis that we will be part of. And if Iran closes the Straits of Hormuz, we've already got Royal Navy ships helping to patrol the Straits of Hormuz to keep the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps ships away from trying to kidnap international shipping that goes through there. So we are involved in that at the moment, and we will have to step up with our capabilities to try and discourage the Iranians from doing it. It's the only thing the Iranians have got left, I think. So yes, we will get drawn into that even more. And this is where the government are going to have to recognize that and step up fast. The world is not just a more febrile place, but the potentials for a series of events to happen to take us into a global conflict have just become even more complex to try and analyze. We haven't moved away from conflict. We have moved away from a despot regime getting its hands on nuclear weapons, but it's not made the world immediately safer. What happens over the coming days and weeks will let us understand as to whether we have moved back from the brink of a global conflict or moved further forward.